Hi, everyone. Welcome to Collaboration Digging Deeper into Its Complexity. Over the last several months, in my coaching and consulting and even the training programs I facilitated, many of the problems that executives have brought to the attention to get fixed and that they're facing in business actually has a lot more to do with collaboration breakdowns than you would ever imagine. So, in our talk today, what I want us to do is revisit the six building blocks of collaboration just to make sure we're all on the same page and so I can demonstrate to you where the problems are occurring. As a quick reminder, the first building block is know your destination. That's pretty clear. As you may recall, this means everyone understands why they're on the team and what they're supposed to be achieving together and where they're going. Haven't you been part of a team that you felt like you were wandering in the wilderness? You were doing a lot of work, but you weren't getting very far, and it was because of lack of direction. You see, without clarity, it's almost impossible to reach anything worthwhile. This is particularly true when you're dealing with more than one personality, and more than one personality is lending their voice to the direction you should be going. Confusion reigns supreme in those situations. The second building block is know the rules of engagement. This might include what happens when someone doesn't complete their part of the project on time, or who's making the final decision, who's the stakeholder for this collaborative team, and when and how often you're meeting. So there's a myriad of other issues that come up. So think about the breakdowns that have occurred in collaborative endeavors you've been involved into and fix them before they have a chance to have run rampant through the collaborative team. So it's know the rules of engagement. All of those issues that might come up and be sticky wickets for you, you need to address well before you even begin the process of driving the collaborative group towards its destination. The next building block is know yourself. You're the most important ingredient to any collaborative endeavor. And you're probably saying to yourself, why? Because you're the only part of this exchange that you actually have any control over. This is why it's so critical for you to develop a strong self-awareness muscle. You know, if you don't understand why you're a member of the team, or why your organization or the leader selected you to participate in this team, and what the expertise you bring to the table that's critical for solution, and how you best interact with people, or what irritates you, where it leaves you impossible. Like you cannot let it go because somehow your body language is screaming your disapproval, even though you're not saying a word. Well, you get the picture of how this lack of understanding of yourself could harm you. If you don't know who you are, you may sit quietly in a corner, never contributing at the level you could be participating. Or on the other hand, you may give too much credence to your expertise and the position you bring in to the collaborative team then is absolutely true or real, and then you're closing down the space of everyone else collaborating. So what's the next building block? It's know your partners. What are your fellow participants' strengths? If you don't see them as adding value, what are you going to do to recognize the giftedness they bring to the table? Because you're the only one that can open the door to uncovering these traits. Your mind will close off seeing good in someone if all you're doing is measuring them for what they don't bring to the picture that you think they should be bringing. So how are you going to learn to respect your partners? Because no one, hear this, no one partners well with someone who doesn't like or respect them. The next building block is know how to communicate. This is communication based both intellectually and emotionally. It's respect for the other person. It's being open and supportive. It's communicating your thoughts in a healthy manner. It's enrolling others in your ideas. And this has to take place in all your interactions in a collaborative environment. There's one additional point that I would like to share with you. I've produced leadership programs for well over 30 years. And in these programs, I ask participants to list 3 characteristics of a leader they know, hear that they know, and that leader has made a difference in their career. After they've shared these characteristics, we review them together. And by their own call, by their own identification, between 90 to 100% of them were all communication based. So when we say communication is huge, it really, really is. In fact, it's the glue that holds all of the collaborative building blocks together. And finally, the last building block, and I believe one of the most ignored, is ask the ultimate question. In today's highly competitive marketplace, there are a number of viable options that can take you to the top of the mountain called profitability. Participants can no longer remain loyal to only their own ideas or only their division's best interest. Instead, everyone at some point must take their hat of loyalty off and put a new hat on called ask the ultimate question. I am loyal now to the whole company, not just one segment of it. And that's where you solidly get behind what's best for the entire organization, what's going to optimize the company, not simply what you think is going to maximize your own or your division's enhancement. As we've been examining the 6 building blocks of collaboration, we've been focusing on collaboration as a single entity, one group endeavor driving towards one solution. The collaborative group is much more than that, however. But let's just take a little look at the small single cell collaboration. It's one team addressing one issue. They have that one mission, and typically you're part of the bigger company, but you're narrowing everything down to this one small project that you're on in collaboration. And more often than not, you're only having to solve the issues of one stakeholder. So you see how the original focus of the 6 building blocks is that narrow collaborative team, which is essential. But this is where it gets more complex. Although the model helps form a cohesive individual group mindset, as you break out of that cocoon of one cell, within the bigger entity is where it becomes more complex and even more interesting. For a moment, let's briefly examine business hierarchy, because this is where a lot of the complexity comes in. If you're crossing borders to move outside of issues relating simply to your area or your aspect of the organization, and this is where it takes much broader view of collaboration, function areas or where you're doing business. You have to broaden your spectrum. You don't have the authority once you move out of your one small area of expertise or business area. You don't have the authority nor enough leverage to get everyone on board and following the rules that work for your collaborative function area, but may not translate well into other function areas. So let's take a deeper look into the organizational hierarchy, with multiple job descriptions, each holding tight to very different attitudes and skills and behaviors, which are indispensable to that division producing desired outcome. And for this discussion, let's pretend each company unit is a collaborative group. We all know that often divisions are so large that they have multiple collaborative groups working within each division, which makes it even more complex. But for our conversation today, we're going to be focusing on each company unit is a collaborative team. What I first want you to focus on is this is where all the breakdowns occur, in the white space. Do you see where breakdowns can happen between communication between area to area? Stormy clouds of hostility often occur. And what happens when these storms arise between the different divisions is it impairs profitability as well as diminishes the results each division potentially could achieve. The reality is that divisions can be humming along just fine, but if they aren't all aligned for the greater good of the company and the organization, business loses. Now, let's take another cut at companies, all with multiple departments, all responsible for producing results that tie into the big picture mission of the company. And yet, how they produce their outcomes of necessity requires distinctive success measurements from department to department, which frequently creates breaches in the interactions among the individual function departments, even though these interfaces are essential for the overall success of the company as a whole. So let's drill down a bit and pretend you're working in the accounting department, where your focus is on producing seamless accounting processes that are efficient and error-free. You spend time focused on the detail and appreciate that viewpoint. I mean, that's what you were hired for, is that detail. And you're committed to providing support to the company. In fact, you're adding value to the bottom line. Now let's pretend that the accounting department is looking to produce efficiencies in departments, which is part of their mission that ties into the company's mission, by requiring customer service department complete extensive cost tracking recording reports. It's a great idea, right? However, the accounting manager runs into a big, fat, passive-aggressive barrier. The customer service department mission is about outstanding service that has clients excited about coming back to do more business, leading to realizing the company's mission of profitability. So the customer service department is meeting its mission to provide profitability for the company. And this requires the customer service people connecting to and with customers, where they leave them feeling as though the company exists simply to satisfy their needs or to meet their needs, which, as I said earlier, is in sync with the overriding company mission. Both divisions are doing great work. They just aren't partnering well right now. Can you see this? So you're the manager of the accounting department, and you have one tool at your fingertips to align the customer service division with your desired outcome of completing the report. And that's called influence. This is where the fourth building block comes into play. You need to know your partners as well as you know yourself. And it doesn't hurt to realize the pain points the customer service department experiences to use your influence. Perhaps the report will aid the customer service manager in improving client relationships while simultaneously reducing costs. Ultimately, your report, you have to understand, is a no-go unless the company, the manager of the customer service, buys into producing the requested time paperwork, because you have no authority and you have no leverage. So if your influence doesn't work, what do? Some of you out there may be pushing harder and harder, and that's only going to be producing deeper resistance. You see, arguing is like you're creating a larger breach rather than shifting anyone's mindset, including yours. Do you see, by moving in and pushing, you're solidifying your thoughts, they're solidifying their thoughts. The only thing left is to bring the problem to the attention of who is responsible for the outcome of both divisions. Your boss or your boss's boss are the only ones who have the authority and power to realign both the accounting department and the customer service department for the greater good of the company. Are you getting a glimmer of the complexity surrounding this issue? I hate to stop now, and I know this hasn't answered all your questions, but you never can in a handful of minutes. What I hope is that it opens your thinking a bit to collaboration and how better to collaborate where you don't have either the power, the authority, or the influence to make a difference. And what you need to be doing is thinking collaboration, not simply with your team, but with the entire organization. If you didn't see the original video I created on collaboration, check it out on my YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and it is my desire that you receive value, and please reach out if you want to dig even deeper into this topic.